Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Categorically Romance podcast. My name is Bree, and my co-host today is my wonderful friend Alicia. Hello, Alicia.
Hi, Bree.
Thank you for
Thanks for
being
asking me to
here.
join you.
Yes, and we are so excited because we have been reading and loving this author's books, and we're just so happy you're here. Author Anna Grace, thank you for being here today, Anna.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Let's start with 2023. So we're recording this. It's November. We're going into Thanksgiving break. How has 2023 been for you?
It has been a wild year in terms of publication, in terms of life changes, all sorts of things have been happening. And I mean, the most exciting thing has really been getting to have 4 books out this year and then one coming out next year. So for my first series to come out like in quick succession, it's really been pretty wild and pretty exciting.
First off, like I said, Alicia and I are huge fans of this series. And
We're gonna gush.
isn't
the
it
whole time.
crazy, Alicia, to see like the books come, like it didn't really register to me, Anna, until you said that. Like, wow, yeah, they all have come out in the same year. What did the
Yeah.
like were you writing them all at the
That's
same
nuts.
time?
Okay. So the first book, I think I started the first book in maybe 2018. I took my time, I rewrote it. It's been like that book, A Rancher Worth Remembering. I spent so much time on that book. And then I started what I thought was going to be the second book, which is the book you just read, Her Hometown Christmas. I started that book, and then the first book got under contract, second book got under contract, but then my agent was like, "Hey, you know what? I think if we approach Harlequin and we suggest bringing in this book, we could, turn this 2-book contract into a 5-book contract," which she did. The only caveat there was that I had to write book 2, Bowman and Maisie's story, in 5 weeks. So
Wow.
yeah,
Pressure time.
that was that was not my most pleasant month.
I can imagine.
Now look back on that, it's like, wow, that was great. No, it was pretty hard, but it was such a, to be able to have the books come out in quick succession, really, I really wanted that. And I love this Wallace family so much. And so it was just a joy to write their stories.
Interesting. Okay, that you kind of answered a question that we have for later. So, we're still going to ask, and maybe you'll have something like extra,
You can
juicy
you
to
can add it
share. But
on.
just to hear that you worked on the first one for so long, because like, look, that book we loved it. I just feel like it is like part of my heart and soul now. Like, I can't wait to reread it. So to hear that you worked so long on it, I'm like, oh my gosh, because it just reads like one of those books that you would think just like just fell from the sky.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
full
it
disclosure,
does.
I don't think any of the original words were still in the book by the time it got published. Like,
What?
Okay.
every word.
We have to put a pin there. We have to put a pin there because I feel like this is part of one of the questions we have later. So put the
Okay.
Mhm.
pin there because we want all the juice on this series. So,
Please.
Alicia, take away icebreakers before we get too carried away.
If you came up with a warning label, what would your warning label be?
Oh, for these books?
For you.
Um,
For you as a person, as a reader, writer.
oh,
If you had a
um,
warning label, yeah, what would your warning
if
label
I
say?
had a warning label, it would be something along the lines of like, must have espresso.
Yes, okay.
You fuel with espresso first, like that would be the warning label.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
I
not
feel that with my whole soul.
Yeah, see, I'm not an espresso girl, but I feel like mine would be, like, probably running late with and has iced coffee. But, like, I leave early, but I always end up late. But, I will have coffee for everybody.
Mine would be don't speak to me until the first cup of coffee is done.
There you go.
I'm not conversational until the first cup of coffee is done for the day.
But do y'all feel like it's
Absolutely.
not even, like, the coffee itself, it's almost like I feel like at this point, my morning iced coffee is, like, part of my wardrobe. Like, it's
Yes.
like it's
It
armor,
is.
it's comfort, it's not even like I necessarily need it. It's just part of
It's
the morning
It's
aesthetic.
just it's the routine of it.
Yes, yes.
right. Right. And Alicia, like you were saying, don't talk to me before coffee. It's also like, give me a few minutes when I wake up, right? Like,
I'm not the person that can get up and start talking to people.
Yeah.
no, absolutely.
So what's a movie or television show you'll never stop watching?
A movie or television show I'll never stop watching. Okay. Oh my gosh. So I think Abbott Elementary is the most brilliant
Yes.
thing to ever come away.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
I know you're a teacher. Alicia, are you in education as well, or?
No, I'm not, but I'm from the area that they based it off of.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. And I just, as a teacher, I like that show every episode. I'm like, yes, it is.
It's
And I
brilliant.
love some Philadelphia representation because we don't get enough of it
Yeah.
in
It's
the
true.
in the media world.
Right. Right. I've learned a lot about Philadelphia from that show. So
Yes.
yeah, that,
And I can tell you it's all accurate.
I think I saw recently that I think it's coming back in January or February, and I think we have maybe like an hour long premiere or something like that. I was just like,
Yay.
"Oh my gosh." It's so
yes.
joyful, it's so funny. It's so good.
It's so funny, but it's so real. I mean,
Yeah.
just in
Mhm.
terms of what education is like. I love it. So yeah, that has been my favorite so far.
The next icebreaker would be, what was the last song that got stuck in your head?
Oh gosh. Okay, well, it was Willie Nelson's Pretty Paper. I don't know if you know that song. It's like
Ooh.
a Christmas song.
Yeah.
And I'm working on a new series now, and I've got this old guy playing a record in this tiny store, and I was like, "Okay, what is he listening to?" And I was like, "He is definitely listening to Willie Nelson." So then I played that song, and then I've just been like humming it nonstop.
Oh.
I'm not gonna hum it right now. I will save your listeners the pain, but, yeah, it's going around and around in my head. And then, of course, Taylor Swift. My daughter is a huge Taylor Swift fan, so at any given moment, I've got some Taylor lyrics in my head.
Yes. Yeah, my daughter's a Swiftie too. Like, she turned 15 on the 8th, and it was like she wanted this Swiftie necklace from Amazon, and
Mm,
apparently we
mhm.
ordered it, but I guess it never showed up, and we kinda forgot about it. She was
Oh,
heartbroken. Like, we got
Oh,
her all these
no.
other extravagant gifts, and she was like, "Where's the Taylor Swift necklace?" And I'm like,
oh, no.
"Oh, we have to order the Taylor Swift necklace
Oh,
again."
no.
It was she was so crushed.
Oh, I totally hear that, yeah. How is she? How's she feeling about the, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift union there? Does she have
I don't think she well, and then it's crazy because, my family lives in Kansas City, so
Oh my
I
gosh.
forgot
for
about
me,
that.
I get it. I don't think she really cares, she just loves the music, but I'm
Uh-huh.
like, she is out with it, she seems really happy, we're seeing these little clips of them, kissing, and he's at the concerts, and I'm like, "This is what she
It's
needed."
cute.
It's so cute. Yeah, it's so cute.
Adorable.
But
Right,
I just think that
absolutely.
it's something fascinating to see, her fan base is amazing. I don't know. It's just I was
It's
thinking,
bonkers.
I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about how her re-release of Taylor's 1989 Taylor's version sold 1.5 million copies. And
Wow.
I'm just like, you have she didn't change much of anything, but the fact that
Right,
you can re-release an album and it sells that much is
And
just
that one an album that didn't come out that long ago.
right. It didn't come out that
Like,
long
it
ago.
came
It's
out
like
when I was in college.
yeah, I think I love that young women and women of all ages, have found their person. I just think that's great. So, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Just the way she bounces back from adversity, I think is what is so appealing to her for so many young women.
Yeah.
They're like, "Yes, that's my person. I can get mad, I can write a song about it, I can move on."
Well, who is one of your most read authors?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I love Terry Wilson, huge fan.
Yes.
Yes.
Um, I I love Jane Austen. Like, I'm still reading Jane Austen.
That's fine.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thanks for,
We need to talk about Jane Austen because she's literally why I started reading,
oh,
or
wow.
how I started reading, yeah.
Okay.
My mom gave me Pride and Prejudice when I was 8, so
Oh, okay, podcast idea, Jane Austen.
Yes,
Jane
please.
Austen, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so Anna, what's your Jane Austen drug of choice? Is it Pride and
Oh, so
Prejudice?
for well, no, for years it was Emma. Emma was like that was my character. well, this is a matchmaking character, right? Getting in other people's
Yes.
business. So Emma, like I love Emma. I also Persuasion. As I get older, Persuasion just like settles deeper and deeper. Captain Wentworth.
Persuasion's my all-time favorite.
Oh yeah, such a great book.
All-time favorite. The
Yeah,
letter. That's all I gotta say, the
the
letter.
letter. Right, the letter is so
Yeah.
good. And then I read a ton. I read all sorts of genres. In terms of romance, gosh, Maggie Wells is another favorite.
Oh, love Maggie. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So lots and lots. Well, my amazing writing partner, Christine Lynn, which has one book out with Harlequin right now. She's got a bunch more coming. She's my writing partner, so I get to read everything like before it hits the streets, and so like
Oh,
that's
that's
a really
awesome.
she's one of my very favorites.
Christine, if you're listening to this, we love you. I love her. Tonight.
Yes.
We got to get you two
Wonderful
on here
writer.
together. You
That
have
would
to
be
come
so
on
much
together.
fun.
We would love that. Yeah, wonderful writer, wonderful human being.
Yeah. Have you been reading the Terry Wilson's like latest special edition series?
Oh yes, just
Isn't it
finished it.
so
Oh,
good?
I haven't started it yet.
Oh, Alicia, you're gonna love it. It is like
I know, I need to.
everything. Like I think if you follow Terry online and you know
I
what
do.
she's
yes.
into, it's like
Yeah.
you just feel when you're reading the series like she has wanted to write the series for a long time. It's so good. It's so good. I
It's so
love
good.
hearing what you as authors are into reading.
I
Um
do too.
well, okay, so this we may have gotten a little bit of the bones of this already, but tell us your romance origin story. Like how did you become a romance reader and writer? Was it
Yeah.
Jane
Okay.
Austen?
No, it was actually pre-Jane Austen. I wrote my first romance novel when I was 12 years old at Girl Scout camp.
Wow.
I was, a shy child. I always loved writing. I always knew that I wanted to write. And I'm at Girl Scout camp and it's all rowdy and everybody's running around and doing all these various things. And I had this little notebook and I'm sitting on the beach, like writing this story. And that, probably sounds a little weird and it probably was. But I'm writing the story, and then at night, my cabin mates were like, "What are you doing all day?" And I was like, "I'm writing this story." And I read aloud to them, what I'd written that day, and they loved it. They were like, "Oh, this is so great." It was about like a teenage rock star and her romance, and so
Of course, of
you know,
course.
right, that's right. What else would it be about? And then, like as the week went on, I continued to work on it. I would read it out loud every night, and it was this just really cool experience of like my imaginative experience um, connecting with their imaginative experience. Does that make sense? Like I come up
Yes.
with this idea, I share it with
Mhm.
them. It's different in their heads, right? And it was just like awesome. So that was it. Like from then on, I was like, I am going to write romance novels. Now that was when I was, 12. And I'm a
I
lot
love
older now. So it took me a long, 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 long time. But I've always loved writing. And I've tried to write novels that aren't romance novels. And I'll start something out and I'll be like, this isn't a romance. And then midway through, a couple of characters are like, oh, it's a romance now. Like,
It's just in there, you don't even notice it.
Yeah.
exactly. That's what happens. And so that's really where I got my start. I worked for years and years, and I just love writing love stories and love reading them too. Barbara Cartland, when I was young, I read a ton of Barbara Cartland. So yeah, all sorts of influences there.
Did it just come to you like the writing, like the craft piece of it? Did you do any courses or was it just like starting at 12 and just taking your time and just getting better and better? Because you are a fantastic writer, Anna Grace. Like, I mean, we're gonna get into this series, but like,
Yes.
I mean, tell us the magic. How did we get here? Because you're
Well,
really
thank
good.
you. Thank you. It took a long time. I think really wanting to write and wanting to tell a story well was a huge part of it for me. I wrote, like I said, I wrote a lot all throughout childhood, and I would write these like when I was in middle school. I would write short stories for my friends, so like a romance between my friend Melissa and John Taylor of Duran Duran, right? And I would write their little romance story, and then like
I love it.
all of my friends were like, various short stories. I wish I should find these stories. They're somewhere.
I
Um,
was gonna ask if you have them somewhere. because that would be awesome.
We can be assured that they are horrible, horrible. But, I remember enjoying writing them, and my friends would just be like, "Ooh, of course, you get a romance story with you and Simon Le Bon or whoever," and they enjoyed them quite a bit too. So I wrote, and then when I, became a grown up, and then got serious about writing a novel, I wrote a lot. I have a lot of unpublished novels just sitting on my shelf because what I didn't put together until later in life was writing something that a publisher could easily pick up, right? So writing the structure was what I really needed. So in 2018, I got serious about getting published and I joined a number of groups. I started taking classes, I started going to conferences, and that's really what flipped the switch was starting to go and meet with other people, read other books. Are you guys familiar with Romancing the Beat?
Yes,
That
that little Gwen
Yes.
Hayes.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that Romancing the Beat like changed my life. Like I
Yes.
love that.
For anybody who has not read it, it's like itty bitty, but probably the best like $10 you'll ever spend on a book. Like
The
it's so
best.
It
tiny. You
really
can
is.
read it in like what, like 45 minutes maybe? But it's just
Yeah,
packed with so much.
it's packed with so much, but it's also like fun and well written, and I
Yes.
enjoy reading it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I met Gwen Hayes once at a conference, and I just totally ambushed her and like fangirled her. I felt really bad. Her face was like, okay, but I was like, I just really love your book. So that was helpful. And then the second big piece was meeting my two writing partners. Christine Lynn and Katie Frey and I met online at Write for Harlequin on their Facebook page, and that friendship and that connection was huge because then we read each other's work, we gave each other feedback, we were there for each other through the rejections and the disappointments, and that was a second huge part. So the writing, I mean, it's taken a long time and a lot of hard work and a lot of rejection. I mean, my goodness, I was getting rejection letters in the 90s. It's been a it's been a long time. But I think just sticking with it is kind of where it all came together, is
Yeah.
not giving up. I
Yeah.
used to tell myself it's not over until I quit. So
I'm
I
always
like that.
interested, like because I think romance is just going to continue to grow and grow, and rejection is obviously part of it. Like,
mm,
just anything that comes to mind, like, do you remember what any of the rejection letters say? Because I think that is an important part of the process that people don't necessarily want to acknowledge. And I'm sure the process is different for everyone, but for that
mm.
aspiring writer out there, and here we are, we're fangirling about your series. So you've
Yeah.
made it through the
Yeah.
rejections. Like,
Yay!
what did some of yours say, or one of yours say, and like what advice do you have to them to like push through the rejection part of it?
Okay, so that is such a great question. So every rejection tells you some great information. A rejection with like just like the straight up rejection. I don't know if anybody has ever gotten that like Harlequin 2 weeks. Nope, we don't want it. Like, just this like insta rejection. Those told me I was submitting the wrong story to the wrong line. That was good information to have.
Okay.
As I continued on in this process, the rejections got longer and people began to write, they would write, I liked this, I liked that. Entangled, I got some wonderful rejections from Entangled, just lovely, long rejections. That
I
were
love
like,
that you said wonderful and wonderful rejections.
they
Yes.
were. And I would take them to
Perspective,
my husband.
people.
Right. I'd be like, babe, listen to this rejection. This is so great. And he'd be like, why didn't they buy the book? Because, of course, my husband believes that everyone should buy every book and every word I write, which is lovely. But I think as they started to say things like, we really liked these characters, this setting was really interesting. Things that weren't quite working were I often had too many characters, which you may have noticed from this series. I really love my secondary characters, so there's that in there.
We do too, so please don't stop writing them.
Right. Keep the secondary characters.
Well, and Harlequin Heartwarming very explicitly has space for those secondary characters, right? So in a heartwarming novel like that's a good fit. So a lot of times the problem was I just kind of hadn't hit hit the mark that they needed for that line. I wrote a book that took place at the Olympic track and field trials. The Olympic track and field trials often happen here in Eugene, Oregon. And I love this love story. And people wrote back and they were like, this is a great love story, but nobody knows what the Olympic track and field trials are. And I was like, how do they not know? These are the most exciting thing ever. But because it just wasn't as marketable. So those pieces slowly gave me more information. And I think celebrating the fact that an editor who, these are busy, busy people, that an editor or an agent would take the time and write to me, 2 pages and then say, please submit something to us in the future. That really started to change the dial. And it gave me hope in what I was doing.
Were you always not necessarily focused on Harlequin, but like was it a conversation with your agent? Because like you mentioned the buying of the series and the conversation you had with your
Yeah.
agent. Like, were you
Yeah.
targeting Harlequin? Did you want it heartwarming? Like, how did the series end up there?
Okay, this is such a great story. So I have been rejected from Harlequin. I don't know, 5 times, more times.
Oh
Harlequin, like,
gosh.
Wow.
I
Oh my
have,
Right.
goodness.
no, yeah. Have you all been rejected from Harlequin as well? Is this have other people's had this feeling?
I'm afraid of
No.
getting rejected from Harlequin. That's why I haven't
I've never
submitted.
submitted anything. I
Right,
write stuff I haven't submitted.
Right. This is why we're loving this. We're eating it up because it's like we're just too scared.
I didn't
I have
submit.
stuff written. I haven't submitted anything.
Yeah, I didn't submit this book to Harlequin back before it was rewritten for whatever, the 4th time, because I didn't want it to get rejected, and I was like, "I so want it to be at Harlequin," but I just couldn't, but I had gotten to the point, so I'd had some rejections. I'd had one novel that an editor, asked me to she said, "I love this, I love so much about this, please rewrite these parts and then give it back to me." I rewrote it, I gave it back to her. We went back and forth a few times, and then ultimately she rejected it, in a way that made me really sad. That was
Oh
a
no.
hard rejection for me.
Yeah.
And then I thought to myself, you know what? I just don't have the special sauce. There's some sort of Harlequin special sauce, and I don't have it. So then I started focusing on Entangled and Thule, and I was hoping to submit to source books. But then I was still pitching agents all this time, and I really did want to get an agent. And then I wound up with the best agent ever. I'm with Steffi Rosito. She's part of the Tobias Literary Agency. Love Steffi. She's really, really great. She read my book and she said, this is a perfect fit for Harlequin Heartwarming. And I was like, okay. And she submitted it to, I think, 5 different publishers. In 1 week, we got 2 offers. One was from Harlequin Heartwarming, and the other, I think it was Forever. I think it was from
Oh
there.
yeah, Forever Publishing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, I think I have that right, and I'm pretty sure that's correct. Um, but Harlequin Heartwarming, of the 2, they were really enthusiastic about it. They really liked it, and they offered a 2-book series. And so at that point, it was like, this is meant to be. It really did feel like that book was just a good fit for the Heartwarming line. So that's how that finally came about. And man, holding that
I love
first
it.
book from Harlequin in my hands and just being like, I would just walk by and look at the cover and like, hee,
Oh my
look at this.
gosh, Jet on that cover. Oh my
Oh my God.
gosh.
Phew.
And the
Whoever picks your covers, my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. And I love that because sometimes I don't know who deals with this art department or who, but like sometimes we get the covers and they're like that smooth, like matte almost cover. And then like the next month they'll be kind of these shiny. I love that
yeah,
Yeah.
Jets is like the smooth cover. He's just like, he
yeah.
glares into your soul. Okay. It's gorgeous.
Yes. And I love like the emu in the back.
Yeah.
Like,
I know. I'd like to give that young man a thank you note,
Yes. He is
Such
Jet.
a
Like I cannot imagine
yeah.
Jet not being
N-
him.
There's no way.
yeah. And they nailed it. Sometimes I feel like they really get what the characters look like, and other times I'm like, "Oh, this isn't quite right." But Jet, like, that is what Jet looks like. They did a
That's
great
Jet.
job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So what was your I got the call story?
Oh, this was kind of funny. Well,
I feel like
two
this
stories.
whole episode should be prefaced with, "This is kind of funny."
Yeah. This should be the title.
Yes. Maybe I'll put that. That's a good idea.
So with when I got the call from Stephanie Rosito about her wanting to represent me on this book, I get this email that says feedback from Tobias Literary Agency on Love. That book was originally titled Love Rule Number One, and I look at it and I see the title of the email and I'm like, oh, it's another long rejection, and I sit down to read it, and it's like at the end of the school day. And I click on it and I keep reading it and reading it, trying to find the rejection in it. And there's no rejection. She's like, I'd like to set up a meeting. And I'm like, why? like, um, so then I get super nervous for this meeting and I over prepare and I'm so ready to pitch myself. And like, here's why you should represent me. And I get there and she's pitching herself as to why I should let her represent me. And I was like, um, okay. And she's like, so why don't you take 2 weeks and think about it? And I'm like, Tobias Literary Agency I had 5 top agencies and it was at the top. Like this was the agency I really wanted to be represented by. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll take 2 weeks. Like I'm some sort of professional here, but like, no, like, yes, this is who I want to represent me. So then we submitted in July. July's not a great time to submit because a lot of people go on vacation in August and there's just not a lot happening at HarperCollins and Harlequin in August. So we didn't hear back until October. And at that point, Steffi and I had sort of begun to have some conversations about, well, we hadn't heard back from anyone. We hadn't gotten any rejections, but we hadn't gotten anybody taking it. So we started to talk about what might be the next project. We had that conversation on a Monday. On Wednesday of that week, everybody, I was teaching high school at the time, and everybody in the school had this big testing day, and sophomores and juniors are taking the PSAT. So my day was really booked. But I did have like a break in the day. I get to school that morning. I've got an email from Steffi saying, "Can you talk?" And I was like, "Ooh, that sounds that sounds good." So I have this 5-minute break during the PSAT. I leave the PSAT, which is a silent classroom. Everybody's all like, stressed out about taking this big test. I walk across the hall into a friend's classroom that's empty. I take the phone call. And I am jumping up and down, screaming as quietly as I possibly can. As Steffi's like, we have an offer from Harlequin, because Harlequin was the first offer we got. And the other teachers in the classroom, there's windows, so students in the hallway can see me like bouncing up and down.
That's so sweet.
But I've only got like this quick little 5-minute break. So then I have to hoof it back to the PSAT. I can't tell anyone. My daughter went to the high school I taught at. So my daughter's like on campus also taking the PSAT that day. So I can't like text her and be like, I got this. So anyway, finally the PSAT ends. I'm filled with joy. And then I call every family member. I text everybody. I use every exclamation point I should be allowed to use in my text. And so it was a pretty exciting day. It was really special.
During testing season.
Yeah. That brought back some memories for me, not good ones.
I want to be like serious and thoughtful for the students, but I'm just like grinning to myself.
You're on cloud 9. Like, let's talk the series now. So, Love Oregon. How did it all come to you? Like, what were you doing in life that was it the town? Was it the family? Like, how did it come to you?
So I was riding in the back of an Uber on my way to the airport in LA. And I had just been to a writing conference and it was really fun. My husband had come down with me. His son was living in LA at the time. And so I would go to the conference, Jeff would hang out with his son. And then we just had this lovely LA trip. And we just had this really great time with Nate after we'd taken a walk and, seen some cool stuff. And we're in the car headed to the airport and I'm missing Oregon and I'm ready to be home. And there's this magazine about modern day matchmakers. And I was like, I'm going to write a story about 2 sisters who are matchmakers and one of them is going to have anxiety. And that idea just like came to me. And I was like, okay, good. And I get home and I fleshed out pretty much the whole, the characters. I knew who the Wallace siblings were. And each of the Wallace siblings came to me very clearly. There was no sort of struggle in figuring out who they were. Jet also arrived pretty quickly as well. But the other characters of of Maisie and of Violet, those came later. And I just sat down and started to write. I was really, I'm sure you know this. Young people now are struggling with anxiety, and in general society is as well. And so that character of somebody with an anxiety disorder that she manages really well, but also is still affecting her life, that was a pretty important story that I wanted to tell. So that first story came to me really quickly and really easily, and I loved writing that book. It was just a joy. And like I said, it wasn't great. There were a lot of things. Like originally, it had flashbacks in it. Of course, nobody does flashbacks anymore. So that was where that came from. And Jet, I was working on the book, and we came back from winter break at school, and we got an email from one of our administrators, and she said, "I want you to think about the fact that for some kids, they've been looking forward to coming back, right? Maybe they haven't had a lot of love and support at home over the holidays. And so just know that maybe your smile as you welcome kids back is a real relief to some students." And I was like, oh my goodness, that is so true. And then that really filled in a lot of Jet's background around his connection with the Wallace family and the teachers and so forth. And so that's where the two of them kind of came in.
The meet cute in that book. Alicia, I remember us talking about it.
Yes.
It's just so
We
memorable.
were literally voice sending voice memos, like screaming at each other about it.
She runs him over with her bike. It's so memorable. And then he is like being the wingman for his friend that's going to meet this matchmaker, not realizing it. It's just so, and I love a matchmaker in romance. I want more actual matchmakers in romance. So
Yes.
yeah, it's
like modern ones.
yes, it's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. And just thinking about and Piper's book, which is the final book in the series, we get back to some.
We were going to go there because
We were gonna ask.
I was like, when do we get Piper? When do we get Piper? She's so cool. She's a sister that moved away. I knew you were going to make us wait for her, but
she's snarky.
And she's
Like, I love her.
I was texting with my friend Susie this morning because she's just been on me about Piper's book. She's just like, when do we get Piper?
Right.
So
I want Piper.
I'll tell you, of all of these books, Piper's book was the most fun for me to write. Piper's voice was so clear in my head. And other voices, like Bowman's voice, was very hard because Bowman, of course, is really quiet. And so, because Bowman doesn't talk very much, it was hard for me to get in there and figure him out. And I feel like I got there eventually, but Piper just was that was a fun book to write.
Yeah.
Except for the last scene when I'm finishing up this whole series and I'm like, I don't want to leave.
It's done. Yeah. Well, so let's get into the question we had about it can be one or whatever. I feel like you've shared multiple already, but some of the behind the scenes. So we know that, some characters came easy, some were difficult to write. Just give us some one or two behind the scenes facts, about the writing process of the book or of the series.
Yeah. So, Hunter, love Hunter. And Hunter's relationship with his parents is in some ways inspired by my son's experience in high school. My son is an amazing, brilliant person who just didn't love school. He's now, my son is in the National Guard. He's working to get an electrician's apprenticeship. He is this wonderful human being, but his sort of end of middle school, beginning of high school, we kind of, butted heads a little bit about grades. And it took me a while to sort of think it through of he does not love sitting in a desk all day. And then looking at my own students and thinking, this is really pretty common, right? Of kids who just have a lot to give, but we put them in the system. And so looking at, what would be a system in which Hunter would thrive. And I figured a restaurant, right, where there's so much going on and he's this good guy, but then kind of needing to keep it together and then having his pressure of wanting to be real successful. So that was kind of where Hunter came from. Let's see. Who do you want to know about? What's a character you want to know where they came from?
Alicia, you go.
Ooh.
Because I want to say Piper, but go ahead. No.
Yeah. we're gonna get that later. I really want to know like more of Ash because I just finished
Oh, yeah,
the third book last week, and
yeah,
and kind of going into a question that I have written down here.
yeah.
Do you come from a big family? Because I come from a huge family, and we're all loud and obnoxious because we're loud Italian people. Like it just like I felt those like dinner scenes because I've had a bunch of that in my lifetime.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I only have 2 siblings, but we are real close with extended family. And
Yeah,
so,
same.
that's yeah, so there's only, the the nuclear family is pretty small, but,
Yeah,
we have a large extended family. And so that, and then my husband and I have a blended family, so that like lots of people, and I love the idea of Ash just being this guy who was like, wanting everybody to settle down and wanting everybody to be serious and wanting everybody to,
and be
do
normal.
what, right, exactly. Have this family where it's like, dude, that is not going to happen. So, yeah, that was kind of where Ash came in. And I love that, like, and this is something that I know that I made up the stories, but it still felt like Ash was the one who's like more mature than his parents, right? Like he's the one who's like telling his parents to stop having a pillow fight or whatever, um, or the pine cone fight, I guess. Yeah, and telling his mom to put her phone down, when she's looking at her phone on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. That just like Ash just showed up that way.
I wanted to know about, well, I really want to know about Coach V, but my girl is
Oh,
Clara, and then of course Piper, but like
yeah.
we'll wait for Piper. But yeah, Coach V for sure, and then Clara.
Yeah, so I love Violet so much. Violet is the imaginary daughter of my sister and her husband. My sister and her husband have 3 boys,
Oh
and they
gosh.
don't. Um,
Okay.
they're another blended family. So,
Yeah.
and awesome. Like I have the best nephews. They're amazing. And I just like, so my brother-in-law Scott is like very athletic. They're just like smart, wonderful, incredible, loving people. And I just in my mind, I was like, okay, what if they had a daughter? So that's kind of where it came from. And then just her being like fierce but also really, lovely and wanting friends and so on and so forth. And so that balance of like, what would a really hardworking, athletic woman who wanted to play football, but like understood that she wasn't going to move forward in the game, but then following in her dad's footsteps of being a coach. And so that's kind of where that character came from. And then Clara. So there's a little bit of me in Clara, I think, and oftentimes authors do that with an early book, of a person who, I definitely have some struggles with being a little anxious, and I have to be real careful about making sure I go for runs and making sure I'm eating healthy and things like that to kind of mitigate, how my wiring is a little tight. And then I wanted a character where her kindness and her friendliness was powerful in the world. So often we think about, powerful people being kind of hard and mean or whatever. And I wanted a really powerful person who was like, love is the answer. Like, I'm going to set up people and make them happy and push them to do the things they need to do. Like, she doesn't pull any punches when it comes to Michael or to Pam or to Coach Kessler. So to push them where they need to be pushed, but also do it through a real kind basis. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I know that we're waiting on Piper, but
I have a million questions going through my head right now.
Right. All of
she's
these
so kind of
characters.
elusive. She's always like one
No.
call away, but she doesn't live there anymore, so we haven't gotten much of her, which I think makes us want more of her. And like I said, I was
Yeah.
like, she's gonna make us wait for Piper. She's gonna make us wait for her.
Mhm.
Who is
It's
Piper going to fall in love with?
yeah. Oh, that was yeah. Just as my friend was texting me this morning, she's like, "Who's it going to be?" So Piper. Um, okay, here's what you need to know about Piper. Like, she's one of those people who's just born like she knows what she wants. She knows how to get it. She's less afraid of what other people think, right? She's just like, we're just going to do this. We're going to get it done. She
I
loves
think of
cities.
Piper. I think Piper is a cool girl, and like
She
not a
is.
bad cool girl. She's the
No,
cool girl.
right, exactly. She loves clothes, and she's like, she's not going to be apologetic about it. She's like, yeah, I look good.
Yes, that's Piper.
um,
I work
yeah,
hard at
Yeah.
it.
exactly. Yeah, you like my hair? Good. I just took some time with it. In fact, she's got that scene with Ani in book 4 where, Ani's talking about the limited wardrobe and Piper's like, yeah, I just want more clothes. Like, I'm not a minimalist. Like, everybody else can be a minimalist. Piper just wants another closet.
Minimalism isn't fun. It's
Right.
not.
And I think she,
Yeah.
like, compared with Clara, like, I feel
Yeah.
like Clara's, like, the every girl. She's sweet, she's funny, she loves love, like, she's a matchmaker, and she takes her job very seriously. And then there's Piper, who isn't she's not mean, she's not the mean sister. They just like,
Yeah.
if you compare and contrast them, they are very different, but they love each other so much. They're very much family.
Yep.
Piper's just real
Yep.
cool. She's just real cool.
Yeah.
She's snarky.
Yeah.
I love,
Yeah.
and that's the characters like fall. I guess because I've been told I'm snarky. I just love the
Yeah.
snarky character. Like one of my favorite scenes, like we're hopping books, but like with the football game, and she's
Uh-huh.
calling out things that she thinks are not going to be like points, and
Yeah.
she
Oh,
doesn't
right.
even know the
Yeah.
game. And I'm just like, I feel that because I don't know football. I come from a hockey family, so I don't know football at all.
Alicia, thank you so much. I think that is my favorite scene that I've ever written. And I think you were the first person to be like, oh, I love that scene.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. It just reminded me of like being in my family who's very sports oriented because I'm in a male dominated family.
Yeah.
So, and not being sports oriented, I'm like, I have no idea,
Yeah.
but I'm just gonna nod my head.
I have to
Yeah.
mention, like, the first the way that the series goes, like, you read the first book and you're like, she is not gonna outdo the intensity and the
Mm-mm.
conflict in the next one. Like, she just can't. Like, there's no way.
Nope.
And then you read Bowman's book and you're like, okay, so she outdid herself, but we're not
Bowman's book made me
she's not
cry.
gonna do that again. And then
Yeah.
you get to Coach V's book and you're like, well, dang it, Anna. Like, you bring in a female football coach to a small town. Clearly, there's a dad who was thinking he was going to be up for the job. Like, it is intense in the best way. And it just makes that ending so much more satisfying. Like, can you talk,
Yeah.
like, is that something that you are like consciously aware of? Is it like having your writing partners be like, hey, add a little bit more to it? Like, it just is so flawless every time. You're like, okay, she's gonna take it easy on us next time. And then you pick up the next book and you're like, nope, she didn't do it again.
Darn. She's ripping my heart out.
I think I can only answer this question by saying I just have a flat out panic of somebody reading one of my books and then getting to the next book and being like, it's not as good. And I'm just like, I'm so panicked about it. And so every book I'm just like, oh, what if it's not as good? And so I know that's not a very good answer, but it's
No, it's perfect.
my concern. I just want to and I was so worried about book 4 in this series. Piper's book, I mean, I don't know. We'll see what people think. No matter what, Piper's book is always going to be my favorite book in the series. Like, I love that character. I go all out. I let her drink as much espresso as she wants.
Yes. So there's a little bit of you and Piper as well.
There is, yeah. I guess Piper and Clara might be like the two sides of me. And
I could see
so,
it.
yeah, but I think it's just really my hope is that as my career continues, and I very much hope to be one of those romance writers who has books and books. I would love it if
You
people
will.
could.
Yeah, you
Oh,
will.
thanks. Okay, great.
Sure. We're saying it. Any
Yeah.
heartwarming editors that are listening, just keep them
Yes.
coming, okay?
Give her like an endless contract, please.
I work with Jenna Grimaldi. Jenna Grimaldi's like the best. Like, I love her so much. She's an amazing editor, and like she can see these little points and helps me tweak things, and she's incredible. So yeah, I guess I just really wanted, I want all the books to be good. And I'm worried, I have another series that will come out in May of this coming year. And I have some like trepidations, but I just have to like take a deep breath and like, it's going to be okay. I'm like doing my best. So
Yeah.
yeah. Piper, I think, is like that person that we all have inside us who just goes for it. Um, and doesn't, part of Piper's issue in this book is that she's come to a point in her life where she's stumbled. She's always been very confident, but then without giving too much away, as her family starts to change and her siblings change, and Clara, has a baby and so forth, Piper begins to sort of question her choices. And so it's this very confident person at a point in her life where she has to kind of step back and say, where am I going and what am I doing? But even that said, she's just got that Piper attitude where she wants to help. She knows kind of the best things to do. And one of the things we learn about Piper is that in her, what seems like selfishness, it's not really selfishness, but in her, like, I'm gonna get what I want for breakfast, and I'm gonna wear what I want to wear, and so forth. That there's this flip side of wanting that for everyone else as well, right? Like she wants people to be in a position in their lives where they're getting what they need and everything's happening as it should for them. So we get to see that real warm and caring side of Piper, as well as her snarkiness and her flippancy and her like, get it together, do the thing, everybody,
Yeah.
So it was just such a joy to write that book.
I think with Piper, I mean, even when we meet her like in book 1, she is very cool, but
Uh-huh.
I think from the beginning when you've introduced her, you've found ways to also, and I think maybe it is because you can tell she just loves her family, but she does have
Yeah.
a soft side and she is vulnerable. And I think that's probably, I think you've just like built her up through the book so well. And it's like, okay, yeah, we're ready for her. We're ready for her. Cause
Yes.
yeah, like you said, I think everybody has a little bit of that of her in us. So I'm so excited. I'm very, very excited for this. Thank you for
Okay.
humoring us.
Yes.
I'm going to give you one little teaser of that book, and
Yes.
you can
Please.
work this out in your own minds. I'm just going to tell you that Piper accidentally buys a cow, and I'm going to leave it at that.
That's all we needed to know.
That's
Okay, right.
fantastic.
I mean, if you're going to tease us, that's the perfect teaser.
Yes.
Okay, so everybody needs to be preparing for her hometown Christmas. Tell us all about it, your elevator pitch, all the things. Tell us, and like a Christmas romance. Like, were you writing this during the holidays? Probably not. How did you do this magic, her hometown Christmas?
So I love, love, love the character of Ani. And so Ani lives in her remodeled Sprinter van and she drifts from place to place. So she's a free spirit. She believes that she kind of doesn't have any rules and that she's this free spirit and she's not going to get herself tied down. This comes out of a pretty difficult background that you will read when you get the story. But she shows up and she is just the thing that needs to shake up Hunter. Hunter is like, I have to be successful. I have to build this event center. He's got it booked for this big equestrian society gala. So all of these fancy ladies are going to be using it. And he's got to get it together. And Ani shows up and is kind of the one person who can help him get it all together, but then also is just pushes his buttons in every way imaginable. And I love Ani and Hunter. They're this couple that I just feel like, they're that couple. I don't know if you know people like this in real life, but when they get together, they just complement each other so perfectly and they help each other loosen up and become happier and really like kind of open their lives to more when they fall in love with each other. So that was Ani and Hunter. Ani loves to tease Hunter and get him like kind of riled up around these various rules. And so it's just really fun to have that character in there. The other part about this story that came later, I had written most of the story, and then later this character of Maya came in, and Maya is a teenager who kind of doesn't have a lot to do and a lot going on. And then Ani brings Maya in to help her paint this mural. And I love the character of Maya and just sort of uncovering her and figuring out what she needs in this place, and how Ani, despite the fact that Ani kind of thinks she doesn't have much to offer, winds up really opening some doors for this kiddo. So it's I love this book, and as always, in books, there's a lot of like gratuitous food. So there's plenty of like Hunter definitely expresses his love for Ani by cooking her things and making her fancy espresso drinks, and so there's lots of Hunter Wallace cooking scenes in here as well.
I love it.
Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for like letting us pick
Joining us.
your brain
Letting
about the
us
series. I mean, we have to ask,
and
like,
gush.
I know that you said like May of next year, but like, can you tell us
Yeah.
anything else about the new series other than like we know there's a Willie Nelson song being played?
Yes.
Like, you know,
Book 3.
we're huge fans. So like, what can you
Yes.
tell us about the next series?
Well, the next series is called The Teacher Project, and it's about 5 young teachers
Oh
straight
my
out of
gosh.
I've been like, I have been excited about you coming across this series. So 5 teachers straight out of ed school are recruited to work at a teeny tiny town in southeastern Oregon. So this is the most sparsely populated area of Oregon. They are recruited to come in and revive a high school. And so they get there, and it's this quirky little town. It's not like Outcrop. In Outcrop, like things are going pretty well when the series starts. In Pronghorn, the name of this town, things are like there's some quirks. The town doesn't necessarily get along. And then the series looks at how these teachers, as they revive the school and then fall in love and so forth, how that kind of changes the community that they're in and brings the community together. So that's what's coming up in May.
I love that.
Are you going to have more horse stuff in the series or no?
Well, 100%.
Like,
yes.
Okay. I wanted to ask you before we stop recording. I used to ride horses. I used to do dressage. Like, do you have a background in that?
So my very good friend, Anne Heddick, who her hometown Christmas is dedicated to, Anne does dressage, and Anne owns a Canadian horse. So that is where that comes from. I love to ride, but I am not not like you. Like people who do dressage, oh my gosh.
I haven't done it in years, but I miss it so much.
Oh, it is
Genuinely
amazing.
miss it.
Well, and so my friend Anne did not get her horse until I think she was 40 when she finally got her horse, and has started doing dressage since she was 40 years old.
That's amazing.
So you can come back to it.
Yes, I hope to.
Yes.
I did it mainly in college and high school.
That is amazing. No, dressage is like, that stuff is like so impressive.
It's intense.
Yeah. Yes, it is. In this next series, the hero in book 1 rescues mustangs. There's a real need for horse rescue in southeastern Oregon. The horses, there's a lot of wild horses that are kind of neglected, not getting what they need, and so horse rescue is a part of this. So there'll be plenty of horses, and also like.
Hey.
There's a German shepherd and there's a cat. I'm like, can you put too many quirky animals in a series? Is there a limit to how
No.
many quirky
Nope.
animals? Okay. Right.
And teachers. Oh, I love
Yes.
it. It's so
My mom's a former teacher, so she'll love it.
Yes. Oh gosh, you have to let her read it, Alicia.
Yes.
Well, Anna, please tell everybody where we can keep up with you online, plug your newsletter, all the things.
Absolutely. So my author website is Anna Grace Author. You can go there and find the latest happenings. You can follow me on Instagram at Anna Grace Author, also on Facebook, Anna Grace Author as well. And then I still have a Twitter account. So that is at Anna Emily Grace. And I love connecting with people. I love hearing what people are interested in and what they hope to see in the upcoming book. So please don't hesitate to reach out with thoughts. Thank you, Bree and Alicia, for having me here.
Thank you.
Being on this podcast, as far as I'm concerned, like I have arrived. I am now an author. I am on the Categorically Romance podcast. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. That means so much. Oh my gosh, we're
It
huge
does.
fans. I feel like we're fangirling here, so
Yeah,
you
we
know,
totally are gushing, like making fools of
all
ourselves,
the
and who cares?
messages you should hear about us freaking out
Yes,
over these books. Um,
you should see our Voxer chat. It's just like, ah!
Jet is still my, Jet and Coach, like just seeing Jet. I don't know. Like I have loved every book in this series, but when Jet pulls up, I just seeing him how crazy he is about Clara. Like you really started the series off with a bang because that couple
Yes,
still means so
completely.
much. And then you fall in
Yeah.
love with the next sibling and their relationship. And I loved Bowman and Maisie. It just had gotten like, it's out of control. So thank you for giving us
It's
so much
just
to talk about. Alicia, where can everybody keep
yes.
up with you?
I'm mostly on Instagram at Birdie in the Books. And I also have a YouTube channel by the same name. And I will have an author interview tonight on my channel.
So I'll link that. Yeah, we'll
um,
link it.
yeah. And yeah, mostly Instagram. I do have a Twitter, Bird and Books, because Instagram or Twitter makes you cut the stuff and doesn't give you, like, they don't let you put your full name, and I'm just like, come on. But that's mostly the place you can find me, and I'm trying to think anything else. Nope, that's pretty much it.
Well, thank you, ladies, for hanging out with me on this Saturday morning. And everybody, I will have all the links to where you can keep up with Anna and where you can get your copies of the books. Go get them so
Also,
Alicia and I have other
Yes.
people to talk about the books with.
And thank you, Bree, for screaming at me to read the first book, because I did.
And you didn't regret it.